Hi, Bryn. I'm going to answer question number 3. I tried to watch your video, but there was no sound. Um, but I liked question number 3, so I'm going to give it a go. Um, so it was, have you had a teaching experience that valued or devalued home languages or cultures? So reading the chapter this week on page 195, um, there's a paragraph and it talks about um, at every turn in our curricula, we must beware of imposing our own personal value system on learners for the sake of bringing a common language to all. Um, so it kind of made me think of something that I do with my Korean students now. And I realized that I was kind of devaluing Korean culture in this way because it's hard for me to understand this concept that they talk to me about. Um, so in Korea, age is a huge thing. Um, so my young students, well, everybody in Korea, they have a word called chingu, and chingu means friend, but it's like a special kind of friend. So someone who was born in your same year. So say I'm born in 1993, my chingu would be somebody else who was born in 1993. Because Korean is like an honorific language. Say I was friends with somebody born in 1992. Friends, I would have to speak to them in a certain way because they're older than me. And that's in your same birth year, you can speak like maybe informally, I guess you would say to them, and it's like more comfortable. So a lot of Korean people have a lot of friends in their birth year. So my students, when they talk to me about people who are their friends, but they're not their chingu, so you can't technically call a person your friend unless they are your chingu in your same birth year. So my students will be like, yeah, I have one brother at school and he gave me a coin or something. I have one sister and she blah blah blah, whatever. So the kids talk about all these brothers and sisters that they have. And I'm like, you have like 7 brothers and 6 sisters. How does this doesn't make sense, right? So they call their friends who are older than them or younger than them brother and sister because they can't call them their friend. So I always am like, that's your friend. That's your friend. Don't say brother and sister because it's not your brother and your sister. It's like something that I always say to them because at first it was very confusing to me because I was like, whoa, 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 you guys have all these siblings. I can't understand. And then I started to understand it. And culturally, I don't understand having different names for your friends. Everybody's your friend in English or in the States or whatever. It doesn't matter if you're 10 years older than me or 10 years younger than me, we can be friends, right? So that's something that I always kind of was like, ugh, so silly. Don't call them your brother, don't call them your sister, they're your friend, right? So then I read this in the book and I'm like, oh my gosh, Claire, like you're really don't do that. That's their culture. Like that's their language. That's just how it is. And I don't need to be like, "Oh, don't say that. He's not your brother." It's just like they're trying to talk to me about something that, and I felt very guilty about it. So your question, like, have you had a teaching experience that valued or devalued? Like, I'm really feel like devaluing their home language, their culture, that respect that they have for ages when it comes to friends and things. And I think it's just so different from what I know, is why I was kind of like, "Oh, I just really can't wrap my brain around this concept." Um, so yeah, that was really eye opening to read that in the book, um, and to like have that realization, like, oh my gosh, I've been like not handling that well. So I kind of think about it now, and I think I'll maybe tell my students, say my older friend or my younger friend, because brother and sister is still a bit confusing, but like to make them totally get rid of the fact that they're older or younger would really, I think, is kind of tough for them. So that's something I'm definitely going to work on now that I've realized it. So yeah, I enjoyed that question. I also found I was like Googling some stuff and found a good case study that somebody did. I think he's like a Japanese student studying in America. It's like his master's thesis. Um, it's pretty interesting. So I'll put a link to this. Um, Let me see. There was a good sentence about suppressing, talking about like people learning a second language. To know English, you must be able to communicate in the language in a manner that native speakers will accept as their own. This view completely excludes the validity of the non-native speaker's cultural background. Suppressing one's own cultural identity may not appear to be so traumatic, yet because the values of the English language clash with the values of one's own native language, the non-native speaker may feel compromised. So it's hard, kind of like a battle of you want to accept this new culture that you're diving into, but you're kind of leaving your own culture behind. Um, but this whole case study has some really interesting stuff about learning English in Japan and like the differences between Japanese and English and what makes it so difficult for Japanese people or what they find tough. So yeah, thanks for your question. Yeah, and hopefully we can figure out the sound problem, yeah? But thank you so much.